Hello, welcome to the Kitchen Spy. My name is Kate, and this is a really simple recipe for chicken and mushroom curry. It's a very flexible recipe, so you can use any meat or vegetables if you don't want to use meat at all. It's not a particularly authentic recipe, but it's just a real easy one to learn how to do. Okay, so let's have a look at the ingredients. So normal curry ingredients really, but this time instead of using individual spices, I've used curry powder. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've got. So we've got ginger and garlic here. So I've got about an inch of ginger all macerated up and 5 garlic cloves just minced through a garlic press. Then I've got 2 tablespoons of curry powder. Now the one I'm using here is medium, but you can use any strength you want. And then I've got 2 chillies, one red, one green, and both I've left the seeds in for a little bit of extra heat. Then I've got onions, so this is 2 medium onions, and these weighed in at 321 grams. And then I've got a whole punnet of mushrooms, so that's 400 grams of mushrooms, or about 14 ounces. And then I've got about 500 ml of stock, chicken stock, and then I've got 6 chicken breasts, and they weighed in at 968, or about 34 ounces. And then I've got a tin of chopped tomatoes. These are the Aldi ones, which I like very much. And then I've got pepper and salt. And so that's the ingredients for the curry. Quite simple. And as I say, you can change it up or down using whatever meat you want to use, or indeed no meat at all. Okay, so over in the pan, I'm just going to be using a few squirts of spray oil. So I've used 7 sprays here. You don't have to be specific, but that's 14 calories rather than using a teaspoon or a tablespoon of oil, which adds more calories. So I'm just popping the onions in, and then what we want to do is brown those off quite nicely. Now, because I have not got very much oil here, that takes a bit longer than it would if you'd got lots of oil in the pan, so just be patient. And then when they reach a kind of golden brown situation, as you can see here, they're pretty much ready. So you can see that they're a nice golden brown. They've just started tinging, almost burnt at the edges on some of them. And then we're going to add the other ingredients, starting with the flavour profile ingredients, because it's important to build those up right at the beginning. So we've got the 2 chillies, and then we've got the garlic and ginger, and then we're just going to stir those around and make sure that they're all thoroughly combined with the onions, and we need to leave those to cook off for a good couple of minutes. And then once you've done that, we can start adding the rest of the ingredients. So the next thing we're going to add to the recipe is actually the curry powder. So just making sure that your onions aren't sticking to the base of your pan too much. We'll go in with the curry powder, and as I said, I have 2 tablespoons of medium curry powder, but you can go with whatever heat of curry powder you're comfortable with. It doesn't really matter. Because I'm not using very much fat, this curry powder is a bit dry here, so I'm just going to add a few splashes of water. If you've chosen to use more oil, you shouldn't need to do this, but I do this, and it turns everything into a really nice curry paste. And we want to make sure that we fry that off so that we don't get any raw taste of curry powder at the end of the recipe. Once we've stirred that all the way through, then we can start at looking at the other ingredients. And I'm doing chicken and mushroom curry. So I'm adding chicken and mushrooms, but this curry is a really good recipe to have in your recipe arsenal, because you can use it for pretty much anything. You could use it for vegetables or beef or mince or anything you wanted to use. It's a really flexible recipe. So I've added in the chicken pieces, and I don't need to cook them all the way through, because obviously they'll cook once the rest of the liquid ingredients are in there, but I just want to fry them off so that they're not looking extremely raw. And then once you've got to that point, then we can start to add everything else. So I'm adding in the tin of tomatoes here, and I always use the Aldi tomatoes. I think they're really good value, but also really nice and chunky as well, and not too watery. Then just mix those all the way through so that we're making sure we're scraping all of that lovely flavour of any of it that might have stuck to the bottom of the saucepan. Once we've done that, then we can add the stock. So the stock I'm adding here is made with Knorr stock cubes, but again, depending on what flavours you've got in there and what kind of meat you're using, you might want to change that. So I'm just giving this a big old stir just to make sure, and then the next thing I'm going to do is just season it with some salt and pepper. And if you don't want to have salt in your curry, you don't have to do that. I choose to have salt. And then I'm just going to sprinkle in quite a large amount of pepper, because again, that kind of adds to the heat profile of this really lovely dish. So that's pretty much all of the flavour ingredients in. So really the only thing left to add is the mushrooms. There's quite a lot of mushrooms here. There's 400 grams, and you can see I'm being a bit messy there, but just pop the mushrooms in, and then just make sure that you get as many of the mushrooms under the liquid as you can. Mushrooms obviously have a tendency to shrink when they're cooked, so don't worry about the fact that it looks like a wholly unreasonable amount of mushrooms that we're adding. I like adding mushrooms because they add bulk to a meal at very, very few calories, so for me they're good value, but if you don't like them, then you just leave them out. I know some of you, some of my regular subscribers absolutely hate mushrooms. Okay, so when we've got all of the mushrooms in, then I'm just going to leave it to come to a simmer. So just stirring it all the way through, and as I've said before, if you stir it and give it a big old stir, and then once you've done that, you can still see the fact that it's bubbling around the edges, then that's pretty much ready. And then we're going to put the lid on, and we're going to bubble that away for about 20 minutes. Once you come back to the pan and taking the lid off very, very carefully, just give it a stir, and you can see there that it's really liquidy. So nobody wants a really liquidy curry. So what we're going to do now is leave that to bubble with the pan lid off for as long as it takes for the sauce to become really thick and unctuous. And as you can see, it's really bubbling away fiercely, so make sure you keep an eye on it. So here it is, as per my usual test. If you run the spoon through it, and it drops off the spoon nicely, but as you separate it with the spoon, it takes a very short while to come back. To me, that means that is ready. So we're just going to plate that up now. So here it is, all plated up. This whole plate of food is 436 calories, but the curry part of that is only 230 calories. So I think that's really good value, and I've served it here with some wild rice and basmati rice. This is a tilde rice effort, I think, here, and then also just a really quick salsa made with mango, tomatoes, cucumber and coriander, and normally I would put onions in as well, but I have to confess I forgot to put a red onion in there, and served with a poppadum. So there you go, chicken and mushroom curry, a really, really easy and flexible recipe, and so very tasty. What I've done with the rest of the portions, because this volume serves 6, is I've served 2 for our dinner tonight, and then I've frozen 4 portions in individual pots, which I'll take to work for lunch, a real treat lunch at work. Well, thanks very much for watching. As always, I really appreciate the fact that you take time out of your day to come and look at my little videos. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your support. It's really, really very appreciated. If you're not a subscriber and you feel like you might want to, to. I'll be posting recipes, food hauls, and I've just started doing meals of the week as well. Then please click the subscribe button. It would be great to have you on board. And if you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.